Many barbershops are operating illegally, and the worst part is they don't even know it. In this video, I'm going to talk about something I've been wanting to discuss for a while because I see a lot of people doing it, and I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or they just don't know. There's a good chance that if you're watching this and you're working in a commission or hourly based shop, that your barbershop is operating illegally. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Alex Jaramillo. I own House of Shaves Barbershop. We've done millions of dollars in revenue, and I make these videos because these are the kinds of things that I wish I knew when I was getting started. So let's get right into it. So the first thing you need to know is there is no such thing as a 1099 employee. I'm gonna write that on the board. If you go to the IRS's website, there is no mention of this term at all. You know why? It's because it doesn't exist. You are either a 1099 or an employee. And I'm gonna break down the main differences between the two in this video. So you can see if your barbershop is operating the way it should be. Now it's not right or wrong, but what I'm gonna go through is how to determine whether you should be classified as a 1099 independent contractor, I'm gonna write that, or an employee, which is the same verbiage. But one of the ways you can tell is at the end of the year, this is probably going to be called a 1099, something like that, or you're going to get a W-2 if you're an employee. So the main difference, and this is why I think a lot of barbershop owners avoid going this route, is because of tax. So the main differences between these two is tax. With a 1099 independent contractor, you're gonna get a 1099. I think if you're less than, I think it's like $600 for the year, then you might not get one of these. They're not required to give you one. But if you made more than that, then the person that you're working for is required to give you a 1099, which basically says how much money you made for the year. And the main difference here is a 1099, the taxes are paid when you file. Your tax here is when you file, versus where tax here is paid prior to when you file, the taxes are taken out of your check. So let's say out of your. So that's the main difference between the two. As far as how they're taxed, like the rate, it's going to be very similar. But this one, you basically get your whole pay, and then you are responsible for setting aside money for when tax time comes to pay the IRS. Here, it's taken out of your check for you, and one of the main reasons why barbershop owners and salon owners don't go this route is because the owner has to pay half of your taxes, which is about 15. So let's say that unemployment tax, it depends on your tax bracket, but let's say it's 30%. So 15% is gonna be paid by you, and then the other 15% is gonna be paid by the owner of the business. So 15% gets paid by you, 15% gets paid by the owner. Here, you're gonna be responsible for the full amount. The owner doesn't pay anything. So this is the main reason why owners might choose to go this route, is because essentially you can save 15% right off the bat. And I think that, I certainly didn't know this when I was first getting started. So right off the bat, the problem is that people like barbershop owners that are over here that are classifying their people the right way are gonna have a problem competing with owners that are doing it this way. This person that owns this type of shop can automatically pay 15% higher than this person over here, because this person has to keep in mind payroll tax. And so these two are probably never going to be able to compete pay just when it comes to purely pay. Now over here you have the ability to do benefits and things like that, where here you don't typically see benefits being offered to contractors. And keep this in mind if you're a barber looking for a job. Over here, if you're looking for how much the pay is, how much the commission is, keep in mind how is it classified? Because if you're being classified as a 1099, it might look good at first, and then you get hit with that tax bill when you go to file. Whereas over here, the taxes are being taken out. So you might make less initially, but then you may get it back when you go to file your taxes, depending on your accountant and all that. So this is the main difference in how it's taxed. Now I'm going to go over how to tell the difference. Really, it all comes down to one thing, which is control. By the way, I'm going to put the source for everything that I'm getting this from so that you know it's not just me making up this stuff. I'll look for the link in the description of this video. But the main difference in how the IRS will determine if you're properly classifying people is the degree of control that you exert. So we'll just go over a few examples because they have quite a few on their website. I'm going to put that over here. So I'm going to highlight some of the more common ones, but the first one is if schedule. So if you're telling people when to be at the shop, how long they should be there, and then I'm going to also put time in here too. So if you're telling people when to be at the barbershop, how long they have to be there, when to take their lunch break, how long the services need to be, you are definitely treating them more like an employee than a contractor, because a contractor should have control over this time. This should be pretty self-explanatory, but just by the nature of this name, independent contractor, if you're classifying somebody as an independent contractor, then they can work wherever they want. Whereas an employee, you have the ability to say to your employees, if you're a barbershop owner, like, no, you can only work here. If you work somewhere else, then you can't work here anymore. Whereas an independent contractor, you can't tell them where they can and can't work. You also can't tell them what time they have to show up, how to do the services. If you can't really hold these people to any sort of standards, and this is common in like booth rent or chair rental types of barbershops where they are truly independent contractors. They can come and go as they please. They have their own booking software. In a lot of cases, everybody might charge different prices. So as a consumer, as a client, over here, if you go to a barbershop where it's all independent contractors, if you sit in one person's chair, it might be a completely different experience than if you sit in somebody else's chair, even if it's in the same shop, because they're independent and they can basically do whatever they want, as long as it's following the law. Whereas over here, hopefully, the experience is a little bit more consistent. The pricing, the timing, everything's going to be very similar because the degree of control that the owner has over the employees here. So these are the two main things. It's schedule, the timing, and also I'm going to put pricing here because as a independent contractor, you have control over your pricing. You should. The owner cannot tell you. They can make suggestions, but they cannot enforce you charging a certain price or not, for the simple fact that you are independent. And I think this is an important note because this might come up in the video, but IRS specifically states on their site that it does not matter if you have a contract that says you are an independent contractor. It doesn't matter. Like an attorney told me one time, a contract is not above the law. The law says if you are being told these things, you are an employee, regardless of whatever piece of paper you may have signed. So even if you have a piece of paper that they made you sign saying you are a contractor, you're responsible for your own taxes, whatever, but you're being treated like an employee based on these things, that contract does not matter. It's an illegal contract is not a contract. So don't worry about that. If you're being treated as a contractor, you have the ability to control these things. Now, will the owner allow it is another story. Now, as far as which one is better for you, it really depends on your situation. So if you want to be able to show up at a certain time and have that consistency, if you need benefits like healthcare, paid time off, etc., and you're okay with paying tax as it comes out of your check and maybe getting it back at tax time, then this may be better for you. Now, if you want the flexibility to choose your own schedule, your own time, and your own pricing, be responsible for essentially running your own business, you may want to consider being over here on this side, being an independent contractor. The point of this video is to help you determine the right way. So if you're being treated like this, but you're being taxed like this, in my opinion, that's not right, right? Especially as a barbershop owner, all of our barbers are employees. So we have to compete with a ton of people that are doing this illegally, and that makes it really difficult because when you're advertising for a job, you know, we can't compete. We may not be able to compete pay-wise because these people are operating illegally, and they can pay more because they don't have to worry about payroll tax. But they're being treated, the people that work there are being treated like employees, even though they're not. So what happens if you get caught doing this and you're a barbershop owner? So the IRS calls this misclassification, and that's why if you're treating somebody like an employee, but you're calling them a 1099 independent contractor, they're going to refer to that as misclassification. So if the IRS finds out that you're misclassifying your employees and you're calling them contractors, you're going to be responsible for all of those employment taxes that you should have been paying since the time they started. And there may even be a penalty on top of that. And this right here has put people out of business. If you're calling your employees 1099s and the IRS finds out about it, they're going to slap you with a huge tax bill, and it may be way more than you can afford, and you could be forced to shut your doors forever. So this is why I'm making this video, just because if you're running a barbershop, you need to decide how much control you're going to exert over your barbers. And if you want these things, then you're going to have to be over here, and you're going to have to be okay with the fact that you're not going to be able to pay what the other people around you may be paying, because you got to save some money for employment tax. And if you're a barber, I mean, it's really just a matter of, do you care about these things? Are these things important to you? If not, then maybe you should be over here. But if you basically want to run your own business, then you want to be over here. But in my experience, there's very, very few commission or hourly based barbershops that are truly operating the right way when it comes to the right way to classify this. So if you want these things, then you're probably better off going to a booth rent type of barbershop or doing your own suite, because that's really the only way that I've seen where this can actually work, and that barbershop owners are doing this the right way. It's like this in between where you have like barbershop owners that are booth rent doing it the right way, and then you have the other end of the extreme where you have commission and hourly based barbershop owners that are doing it the right way, and then there's everybody in the middle that kind of wants the benefits of being an employee-based barbershop without having any of the tax burdens. And the IRS calls that misclassification, and if you get caught doing it, you're going to pay a ton of taxes and potentially go out of business. I fully expect this video to get me a lot of hate from the barbershop owners. And if you don't trust what I'm saying, just look at the link in the description below. This is directly from the source, from the people that are going to put you out of business, the IRS, if you're doing this the wrong way. And so barbershop owners, if you find that you're doing it the wrong way, now you know. Ignorance is not an excuse. Now, even before you watch this video, you could have easily found this information on the internet. But now that you know, it's time to start making a plan on either you're going to operate truly and treat people truly like they're 1099, or you're going to make the switch and convert people to employees. I did this, right? Because I cared about these things. I wanted to have consistency in my business. If you're going to do this, I'm going to warn you right now. Watch out for this. This is going to make your payroll skyrocket. So you may want to talk to an accountant, somebody who's really good with numbers, to figure out, can you even afford to do this before you make the switch, right? And your people might be mad at you because on paper it's going to seem like they're making less because now taxes are coming out. So this is a really, really big decision, but it's important because, again, if you get caught doing it the wrong way, then you might go out of business. So now you know the right way. Now you know how to tell the difference between the two. Then hopefully you found that helpful.